Hello everyone, my name is John Michael Bushman and welcome back to Magic the Gathering. I got sick for about a week and we are back with Magic the Gathering, but not for the Final Fantasy stuff. No, because I did not know that preview season for Edge of Eternities, the set that will edge a lot of people, is out and about and is done by the time you're watching this video. And all of the cards have been previewed, including the ones in the two commander decks, and I still cannot believe that this slipped under my radar. Like, it's insane that I did not get hide nor hair nor any word of this until about until I recovered, basically. But initial chatter that I have been hearing about Edge of Eternities, it is a very, very pushed set, and will hopefully shake up a lot of competitive formats moving forward. And we're gonna see that if it also happens in Pauper. And from the chatter that I'm seeing, well, a lot of artifact support is in this set, and affinity players are still happy. Good God. So we're gonna start right off with auxiliary boosters, a 5-mana artifact equipment. Oh, I did not realize it was a piece of equipment. So when it enters, you create a 2/2 colorless robot. Okay, and you attach it. Okay, so it's a 5-mana 1/2 with not 5-mana 1/2. No. It's a 5-mana 3/4 with flying. So we're getting more and more of these equipment these days that have a creature on entry, so that they're not completely worthless. But stuff like this, unfortunately, this is very likely just pack filler, or just a bottom of the pick on the draft. So skip on this one for Pauper. And Banishing Light, always good to see it, always good. Then Bright Spear Zealot, yes, I'm just gonna blaze through the ones that we see very often. Draft is a type of game mode that I don't really tackle too often, and I always say that it may or may not be good in draft because my experience in the formats that don't really require actual construction for constructed, basically, very limited. Haha. But they do translate surprisingly well, at least the ones that I do somewhat get right. But otherwise, don't take my word for gospel. This is just me spitballing here because I love playing the Pauper format. But moving right along to Bright Spear Zealot, a 3-mana 2/4 with Vigilance. It has +2 and as long as you've cast 2 or more spells this turn. This might slot into the popular prowess deck that has been going around in Standard at the moment. But that deck is mostly red and blue. I don't know if they have the space to add a third color to it, though. Up next, we have Dock Worker Drone, a 2-mana 1/1. It doesn't seem assuming, but it enters with a 1/1 counter on it. Okay, you have my interest. And then when it dies, put its counters on target creature you control. Take note that this is any counter. So if you have stuff from Ikoria lying about, or other stuff that gives ability counters, this guy can just hold it for you and then just give it to somebody else. This is pretty scary for Commander, because it can carry a lot of shit and then just give it to one creature and hopefully deal a lot of damage to one singular person. Or if there are ways to multiply the number of counters that certain things receive, then it's going to be pretty out of hand from there. Definitely keep an eye out for this one, but only for Commander. So let's move right along to Exosuit Savior. And in case you guys didn't know, Magic the Gathering has gone to space with Edge of Eternities. In case the aesthetic isn't giving it away, Magic has gone to space, which is usually that point in a movie franchise, like way back when, when successful movie franchises, the trope of successful movie franchises that get to a certain point, they usually go to space when they're quote-unquote running out of ideas. But at least from what I'm seeing, people are somewhat receptive of it. I think this was inevitable, to say the least, that eventually Magic's gonna have to go to space, because Eldrazi are basically space monsters, and to finally go to the stomping grounds of the Eldrazi is well, about goddamn time. And higher rarities, by the way, we have a lot, and I mean a lot, of Eldrazi and Sliver support. And I don't know if any of them exist on the lower rarities, but I guess I will find out when we get there. So going right back along to the card reviews, or card overviews as I more prefer to call it. Exosuit Savior, a 3 mana 2/2 with flying, and it's a human soldier. When it enters return, it's a card that just slots into the Esper bounce deck in standard. Potentially, because that deck is usually Esper, and I mean I did say Esper bounce, so there is that. But I think it has to compete against one of the creatures that does it at flash speed. So this may or may not make the cut, but it's something to consider. Up next, we have Flight Deck Coordinator, a 3 mana 3/3 at the beginning of your end step. If you control 2 or more tapped creatures, you gain 2 life. Definitely more for limited and or sealed environments, but otherwise, definitely skip out on this one. Up next, we have Focus Fire, the obligatory white damage spell that will deal extra damage based on a certain thing. In this case, number of creatures and or spacecraft you control. So it's a 1 mana deal 2, okay, so that's fine, but then it will get even more damage if you have creatures and or spacecraft, which is spacecraft are I don't know if there are any of them in the lower rarities, but it's a common thing here in Edge of Eternities. Up next, we have Night Luminary, a 4 mana 3/2. When it enters, you create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token, and it has Warp. So this is a new mechanic for Edge of Eternities. You cast the spell for its Warp cost, and then you exile it at the beginning of the next end step. So when you would cast it for the Warp, it goes away. It goes into exile, but you can cast it again from exile on a later turn. So it will definitely lead to some shenanigans that I do not know what the implications will be just yet, but I have seen some high rarity cards with Warp in it, and the combo potential for said cards is insane, especially when the Warp cost is going to make the card markedly cheaper, and it's scary, to say the least. But as for the Night Luminary, probably more for the draft or sealed environments. Moving right along to Lux Knight Breacher, a 4 mana, it's 4 mana. 4 mana 2/2, this creature enters with a 1/1 counter for each other creature and or artifact you control. So this could be potentially a really huge, especially if you have a wide board. Only when a vessel is emptied of shallow ego may depths of light flow in to fill it. So I don't know if there are any of them in the lower rarities, but Sunburst returns for Edge of Eternities, and it's one hell of a mechanics to say the least. So we're just gonna move right along to Radiant Strike. So 4 mana, destroy target artifact or tapped creature, you gain 3 life. So for about 2 extra mana, you destroy an artifact and then you gain 3 life. I don't think that's worth it. Usually in white, 2 mana to destroy a target tapped creature is usually just that. And I think there are even variants that make you gain 4 life. So I don't know why tacking on 2 extra mana for this is going to make it any more competitively viable. And I guess for sealed, it's something. Then moving right along to Squire's Lightblade, a 1 mana equipment with flash, and then when enters, you attach it to a creature, and then they gain first strike. So this is definitely more of a combat blowout thing, especially for sealed and or draft. Definitely pick this one if you have the colors to support it. Otherwise, probably not for Pauper. Up next, we have Starfighter Pilot, a 2 mana 2/2. When it becomes tapped, you surveil 1. I did highly rate a card like this way back when. I believe it was during, if not during Brothers War, it was Dominaria United, if I remember correctly, and it did not get anywhere, so I don't have high hopes for this Starfighter Pilot here. Bright Star 1 to Flight Com, scopes are clear, the stars are yours. Yes. Oh my god, the flavor of this set, by the way, from the initial chatter that I've seen, or barely seen, because good god, Edge of Eternities happened just as I was getting sick, and then the Uma Musume Pretty Derby mobile game got its global release, so that consumed my life for a week. Basically around the time I was sick, I couldn't play any games anyway. I couldn't record, so I just played the horse girl game instead. And good god, I've had 10 career runs in it, and I've only won the championship once. And it's with the meme horse. If you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. But let's just move right along. Up next, we have Starport Security, a 1 mana 1 1, and then it has a mana sync ability that will not matter if it's in Pauper. It will probably already be dead by the time you're gonna do that thing. Moving right along to Weft Blade Enhancer, a 6 mana 3 4. This had better do something good. When it enters, put a +1/+1 counter on each up to 2 target creatures, but you can instead cast it for its warp cost of 3 mana. That would be way better than the 6 that you're gonna be upfront about, so you're usually just using this to put a +1/+1 counter on 2 creatures, so or 2 +1/+1 counters on 1 creature in particular. So definitely pass on this one as well. More for the limited or draft environment. Up next, we have Zealous Display, the last white card of this entire set right here. 3 mana, 3 mana +2/+0 for all your creatures, and then if it's not your turn, you untap them. So it's pseudo vigilance, and it makes them slightly bigger as well. I'm just noticing now that the Sunstar, yeah, they're called the Sunstar company. Their armor reminds me somewhat of Mass Effect, which is fascinating. But we're just gonna move right along to Cloud Sculpt Technician. So now on to the blue cards. 3 mana 1 4 with flying. As long as you control an artifact, this creature gets +1/+0. Probably more for limited, but otherwise very unimpressive to me. Up next, we have Cryogen Relic, a 2 mana artifact. Now this I've seen people hype up a lot because it's basically Ichor Wellspring but more. Because when it enters or leaves the battlefield, you just draw a card. So there may be an argument that this will replace Ichor Wellspring in the Grixis versions of Affinity. Because why would you play Ichor Wellspring when you can just play this instead and have additional upside on top of it? You can still play Ichor Wellspring, but if you have the blue to support Cryogen Relic, then good God, this card is going to be bought out in foil all over Pauper tables. So definitely get your hands on this one and freeze your opponents to fucking death. Up next, we have Cryo Shatter. Definitely just skip on this one. This is probably more for, again, limited and or draft. Then we have Divert Disaster to counter target spell unless its controller pays 2. So may or may not see play in standard, but in Pauper this might actually be good because the lander tokens are basically ways to search basic lands, and what more would you want? Lander tokens are an insane token that they created for this set, and it's going to make a lot of decks very consistent moving forward. People have always complained that, especially in Commander, that they get mana screwed a lot. Well, now you have a way to not be mana screwed. Assuming, of course, you run a lot of basic lands, because the Lander tokens only search basic lands. But keep an eye out for this one. It may or may not see play in Pauper. Definitely will see play in Draft or Sealed. So because, you know, a way to get lands out of your deck just so that you will not have to worry about them in the future. You know, have better draws. Definitely up there. Next, we have Ilvoy Galeblade, a 1 mana 1 1 with flash and flying, and then you sacrifice this creature to draw a card. Of course, you have to pay 2 mana for it. There has also been chatter about this guy because it's a 1 mana 1 1 with flash, so you can just cast it on your opponent's turn and then leave mana up on your turn 1. So you can just put the Fear of God in them and then just drop it on turn 1 if your opponent doesn't do anything else. So definitely keep an eye out for this one. This might also see a lot of experimentation because Mono Blue is apparently on the rise and has been on the rise ever since the changes to the ban list. Moving right along to Ilvoy Light Jammer, a 2 mana artifact equipment with flash. Oh, we're getting a lot of these. So target creature will be attached to a creature, then it'll gain hexproof, and then that creature will get +1/+2. So this isn't one of those living weapon type things. But it does give it hexproof, so it will protect your creature for a bit, and then it will get a minor buff. So definitely more for limited or draft because it gives protection to your I guess you would use this on your kill turns, you know, or protect a very important creature from dying, but otherwise probably no. Up next, we have Ilvoy Operative, a 2 mana 2/1. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. So, definitely might slot into the prowess decks in standard because that deck just slings a lot of spells. Although, I'm not quite sure if it can actually compete very well because space in that deck is a tight. So, definitely keep an eye out for this jellyfish. It might see experimentation. Up next, we have Lost in Space, a 4 mana instant. Target artifact or creature's owner puts it on their choice of top or bottom of their library that you surveil one. So you can even put your own stuff back into on top of or bottom of your library that you surveil one. Oh my god. Every so often, the edge reminds you that there's always more to discover. Oh, you're gonna edge, alright. Moving right along to Mechan Shieldmate, a 2 mana 3/2 with Defender. As long as an artifact enters the battlefield under your control this turn, this guy can attack. That design is very Eldari coded, and I am not sure how to feel about that. But otherwise, probably more for draft because having only 2 toughness is not gonna get you too far, especially in the Pauper format. So definitely skip out on this guy. Moving right along to Mechanozoa. Oh my god, the Zoa are in space now, so there is that. 6 mana 5/5. When it enters, you tap you tap them and you put a stun counter, or you can just use it for warp instead. And I believe you can only do warp as a sorcery? Question mark. I haven't seen an instant yet that has warp. But if it does, I mean, it doesn't say that you can only activate as a sorcery, so I guess if you have a way to cast stuff at instant speed and then you have a warp cost, you can probably do some shenanigans with it. But otherwise, going back to the Mechanozoa, that is going to be quite the mouthful. Probably no. 3 mana for a 5/5 and then it just goes away, so you're just using this as a body on board. Hell, now that I'm thinking about it, you can use this as sacrifice fodder for decks that can support that strategy, so definitely keep an eye out for that one, but otherwise, definitely no. We're just gonna move right along to Mental Modulation. An instant. Okay, you tap target artifact or creature, and then you draw a card. What the fuck is this thing? Oh my god, that is insane! I mean, you don't care that you're tapping down a creature. Good god. But you're just gonna draw. This is just cycles. This cycle just replaces itself. What the hell? Definitely keep an eye out for this one because this might just see enough experimentation that it'll become meta, but I have been wrong before, so we're just gonna see. Up next, we have Nanoform Sentinel, a 3 mana 3/2. Whenever this creature becomes untapped under the target permit, this ability only triggers once each turn. Alright, WotC knew what they were doing because if they did not tack on the hard once per turn there, like what Yu-Gi-Oh does, this thing is going to spiral out of control in a lot of formats. So good on you, WotC, at least. Moving right along to Self-Craft Mechan. Good god, the amount of words that are being blended together in this set. Oh my god. Let's see what this guy does. A 4 mana 3/4. It's a robot. Oh, right. That's another new creature type that is added to this set. Robots. There are robots now, and there are also constructs. So that has miffed a few people, but some other people are fine with it. So moving back to the Mechan here, whenever the creature enters, you may sacrifice an artifact, and if you do, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, and you draw a card. So 4 mana is a bit too expensive for that effect. If it were 3, I'll probably be more accepting of it, but otherwise, yeah, definitely skip out on this guy. Although this might see play in drafts, so keep an eye out for this guy. Up next, we have Sinister Cryologist, a 3 mana 2/3. When it enters, target creature and opponent controls gets -3/-0 until end of turn, or you can just warp it for 1 blue mana. No, just no. We're gonna move right along to Star Breach Whale, a 5 mana 3/5 with flying. When it enters, you surveil 2. Now, a friend of mine loves playing with his Miracle deck because it plays on an axis that he doesn't quite play on very often because he's a Simic main, which is already disgusting enough, but he does love playing with the graveyard in a way that isn't exactly normal. Miracle, the Dimir one from, I believe, Murders at Karlov Manor, if I remember correctly, He loves playing that deck, and he has been considering this card just as a way to surveil to like every turn. So definitely he will be buying this card and just experimenting with it, because 2 mana to surveil 2 is an insane rate. But for Pauper, probably no, because this is just a body that does basically nothing. It just surveils you 2 and then goes away at the end of the turn. So maybe, maybe not, but highly likely no. We're gonna move right along to Beamsaw Prospector, a 2 mana 2/1. When it dies, you create a lander token. I don't know how a spaceship would be born out of this guy, but hey, you do you, Watsy, you do you. But otherwise, he has to die first in order to give you the chance of searching a basic land. So maybe consider this guy. I mean, he's just a human, so there's not too many synergies there. If he were an artifact, then the affinity players are going to be salivating all over this guy, but sadly, he's only a human. Although 2/1, he will deal with a lot of early threats very early on, so definitely keep an eye for that guy in that department, but otherwise, highly likely no. We're going to move right along to Comet Crawler, a 3 mana 2/3 with lifelink, though that's going to be very annoying to deal with. When it attacks, you may sacrifice another creature or artifact, and if you do, this guy will get +2/+0. Ooh. A 3 mana 4/3 with lifelink is extremely insane, right? Found the stranded crew in an icy labyrinth. Well, whatever's left of them. Oh god. Up next, we have Dark Endurance. It's an instant, and it costs 1 less to cast if it targets a blocking creature. Okay, obligatory. Black has been getting a lot of these kinds of spells lately, where for 2 mana, you would give a creature either some flavor of indestructible and or death touch, but it never really gets anywhere. It's more of a draft or sealed thing, so definitely keep an eye out for that one. But from what I hear, battle tricks like this usually only have very small impact, so you would rather pass on them. But if you don't have any other choice, then definitely add it into your deck. But in actual constructed, probably no. We're gonna move right along to Decode Transmissions, a 3 mana sorcery. Okay, so typical mono black stuff, or that make you draw 2 cards and lose 2 life, but it has the new mechanic Void. So it's basically Revolt, but with 1 more line of text, because it now considers Warp as well. So and then it does an additional thing or a different thing if you follow the Void text. So if you have Warped, or if a non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn, you instead draw 2 cards and each opponent loses 2 life. So definitely you're gonna save it for those instances instead, but otherwise for actual Pauper, probably no. For Commander, this is going to be really spicy though. But we're just going to move right along to Depressurize. Target creature gets -3/-0 until end of turn, and then if that creature's power is 0 or less, you destroy it. That's actually very flavorful. Holy shit, that's a really good card for in terms of flavor at least. But for actual constructed, you're not going to be killing a lot with -3/-0, unfortunately. So we're just going to move right along to Embrace Oblivion. Additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice an artifact or creature, destroy a target creature or spacecraft. So more for limited and or draft, and it's at sorcery speed, so definitely no. Join me in the next eternity. It's not attributed to anybody, but if I would have a hazard a guess, that guy in the suit is definitely Tezzeret. Oh boy. We're just going to move right along to Graph Blade Heavy, a 4 mana 3/4. As long as you control an artifact, this creature gets +1/+0 and has a death touch. Pass. Next up, we have Gravkill, 4 mana, instant, exile target creature or spacecraft. This is a bit too expensive for its own good, even for the exile part. No, just no. We're gonna move right along. Gravpack Monoist, a 3 mana 2/1 flying. When this creature dies, create a tap 2/2 colors robot artifact creature token. So stuff that leaves stuff behind is good in draft and or limited, but in actual constructed, they are considered, but ultimately never gets anywhere. So definitely skimp out on this guy. Unlike the Hull Carver, which is a 1 mana 1/1 with Death Touch. Very annoying to deal with, especially if you're playing defense. Your opponent's gonna have to think about their attacks in draft and or limited for stuff like this. And it's an artifact creature, and well, then again, affinity decks are pretty tight for space, so having a 1 mana 1/1 Death Touch might not make the cut, but definitely something to consider. So We're just gonna move right along to Insatiable Skittermaw, a 3-mana 2/2 with Menace, and then it has Void at the beginning of your end step. If a non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn, or if it so if it voided, you will do a thing, and in this case, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. So this will definitely spiral out of control in draft or sealed if left unchecked, but in actual constructed, this guy would already be dead before it even does anything too significant. So definitely pass on this one. Up next, we have Pedigree. Why do I say pedigree? It's Pedigree. Yeah, I believe that's a word. I'm not quite sure what it means though. Pedigree Beckoner, a 5-mana 4/5. When it enters until end of turn, another target creature you control gets +2/+0, and then when each creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under control, or you can just warp it instead. That's an interesting effect on a creature like this. So for 2 mana, you get basically you're overstated, but probably we'll see experimentation in Commander, but anywhere else, definitely no. Up next, we have the Nightmare Fuel that is Swarm color, a 4-mana 2/4 with flying. Whenever this creature becomes tapped, you may sacrifice another target creature or artifact. If you do, you draw a card. So there are probably more efficient ways to do this, but it's something to do for the more budget-minded Commander players. Otherwise, definitely skip out on this one. Up next, we have Temporal Intervention, a 3-mana sorcery with Void. It will cost 2 less to cast if you trigger the Void. And then it just becomes Thoughtseize. Huh. That's actually fascinating. So you're basically spending 3 mana to do this thing. Because what the play pattern that I see here is you would cast something, you would warp something for 2 mana, and then you would cast this for 1 mana. So definitely a play pattern that will happen, but probably a bit too much setup just for a Thoughtseize. But hey, I have been proven wrong before, and sometimes stuff like this ends up being meta viable. So there is that. And from the art here, I mean, we see Mr. Tezzeret right there, and safe to assume that I also know this guy. This is a mono red legendary. I don't remember his name, sadly, but his ability is insane because it gives all of your artifact and red creatures warp 3. So all of your stuff is now going to cost 2 colorless and a red, and oh boy, the amount of combo potential that will entail is going to be insane. I'm not quite sure who the other characters here are, but I guess I'll find them if I look at the higher rarities. But for now, this card probably will see experimentation and may or may not actually see competitive play. Up next, we have Virus Beetle. When this creature enters, each opponent discards a card. Yep. Good, clean, simple fun for Affinity. Fuck Affinity. Moving right along to Bombard. 3 mana, deal 4 damage to target creature. A bit too much, so definitely skip out on this one. Moving right along to Drill Too Deep. Now, this may see play in Constructed, because it adds charge counters to spacecrafts or planets. Because a lot of those guys have the station mechanic, where if you would tap a creature, and then you add a number of counters equal to its power to that spacecraft or planet, and then that spacecraft or planet quote unquote activates. And once that happens, you're gonna get additional things from those two types of cards. Definitely, this will see play more for that, I guess, more than the destroy target artifact thing, because Upbraid, I believe, is still like standard legal. And then, of course, if you go into the older formats, this will definitely not see play there. But for standard and draft and sealed, we'll probably see experimentation here and there, but for actual Pauper, no. You have to compete against Upbraid, good sir. And I'm not quite sure if there are even any spacecraft that are legal in the lower rarities, so definitely skip out on this one. But up next, we have Frontline War Rager, a small Kavu. Well, they just look small, but you know, the Kavu are their own thing here in Edge of Eternities, apparently. They are their own. They are actually a space-faring race, so that's you learn something new every day. So this is a 3 mana 2/3. I mean, if your end step you control 2 or more tap creatures, you put a +1/+1 counter on this guy. So he gets bigger and will eventually become really, really big. And I'm just noticing one of the guys in the background has a drill. So something rock and stone, something. I am a dwarf and I love to dig a hole, diggy hole, diggy hole. Moving right along to Cav Landseeker, another Kavu. Okay, so they are, holy shit, they are huge, and they're sentient. Oh no. 4 mana 4/3 with Menace, and then when it enters, you create a lander token, and then you sacrifice it. I mean, he is a land seeker, so he sees the land, and then if he doesn't like it, go blow it up, boom. But 4 mana for that effect. Probably no, and then it does have menace, but probably a low pick in draft and or sealed. But otherwise, yeah, definitely skip out on this guy. Moving right along to Kavaron Skywarden or Kavaron, because Kavu and whatnot. 5 mana 4/5 with reach, and then the void thing it does. It really just gets bigger. And no, definitely no. Next, we have Kavaron Turbo Drone, a 3 mana 2/3, and then you just tap it, and then target creature gets +1/+1 in haste. Ooh, that's a fascinating effect there, good sir. But 3 mana for that effect is definitely way, way too slow. We're just gonna move right along to Melded Moxite, a 2 mana artifact. When it enters, you may discard a card. If you do, draw 2 cards, and then you sacrifice it to create a robot. Probably no, because the stuff that would usually do this type of effect, I would rather just cast it as an instant and or sorcery. But for stuff like this might actually, some affinity players just might be crazy enough to experiment with this thing, because again, it's an artifact, but space in that deck is pretty tight nowadays, even with Deadly Dispute being banned. It just prefers to just be aggressive with its creatures instead. So there may not be room for stuff like this in that deck. So we're just going to move right along to Nebula Dragon. Oh, wow. We have a common dragon again. 6 mana 4/4, or rather 7 mana 4/4. When it enters, deal 3 damage to any target. Too expensive. Pass. Next, we have Orbital Plunge, a 4 mana sorcery, so already you lost me there, and deals 6 damage to target creature. If excess damage was dealt this way, you create a lander token. A bit too expensive at 4 mana. If it were 3, it will probably be way too good, so definitely pass on this one. Next, we have Orplate Pangolin, a 2 mana 2/2. Whenever another artifact control enters, you may pay 1. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. It wasn't the most efficient design, but the miners refused to part with old Pangy. He's definitely a good boy, although he'll have a few cuts along the way, but hey, you don't want to have to part with him as well. But otherwise, sadly, no. Up next, we have a Plasma Bolt. So it's either a shock, a sorcery speed shock, or if you voided this turn, it's going to become a slow lightning bolt instead. I mean, it's a thing to consider, but probably no. Sorcery speed is the death of a lot of things in Pauper. You would rather have that as an instant instead, so definitely pass on that one. Up next, we have Red Tiger Mechan, this Power Rangers looking motherfucker right here. It has haste, so a 2 mana 3/3 with haste. I'm going to ignore 4 mana. No, you are casting this for haste, and you're not going to cast it for anything else. So it's not a goblin, thankfully, but it does have haste. And 2 mana 3/3 is that's a bit scary right there. Oh boy, I mean, it doesn't have any protection whatsoever. It's just a 2 mana 3/3, so. It's just a lightning strike, if anything. And it is a creature, so there's some upside there. And it's an artifact creature at that. Oh boy, I fucking hate affinity. We're just gonna move right along to Rig for War. Target creature gets +3/+0 and gains first strike and reach until end of turn. Obligatory, does this go into Feather? Yes. Absolutely yes. We're just gonna move right along to Slag Drill Scrapper, a 1 mana 1/2, and then you pay 2 manas and tap it, you sacrifice an artifact or land, you draw a card. Definitely Gucci in my department, because I love sacrificing my lands in my commander decks and using it for fun and a profit. So definitely a point of approval there, but for other constructed formats, especially in the 1v1 variety, probably no. Up next, we have Zookeeper Mechan, a 2 mana 1/3, and then it's a mana dork. Okay, that's fascinating. Or for 7 mana, target creature you control gets +4/+0 until end of turn. No, that is way too slow. We're just gonna move right along to the next one. Up next, we have Biosynthetic Burst, a 2 mana instant. Put +1/+1 counter on target creature control against reach, trample, and indestructible until end of turn. You untap it. Oh boy, a lot of people are already saying that this card is going to replace Bushwhack. Because it gives so much. And I will definitely be buying at least 1 copy of this for my budget Gitrog monster deck, because that boy needs a lot of protection. Oh my god. And as for where it will go, I mean, Mono Green Stompy is a deck that has been on the fringes for like the longest time, and people have been trying to make it work. But removal is so goddamn efficient in Pauper these days that, well, let's just say that they are fighting the good fight. So there's that. But in standard, this is the place where it's going to be the scariest. Biosynthetic Burst is going to definitely buff up a lot of Tifa mains in standard, if you know what I mean. So definitely keep an eye out for this card. It will definitely see a lot of play in the formats that it will be legal in. But moving right along to Blooming Stinger, a 2-mana 2/2 with Death Touch, and when it enters, another target creature control gains Death Touch until end of turn. So Sentient Venus Flytraps as Claws is an insane design choice. Definitely one of the more interesting art choices for creatures in a long while here in Magic the Gathering. But for its abilities, probably no, just no. Now moving right along to Diplomatic Relations. Yeah, how did that go? Target creature gets +1/+0 and gains vigilance at the end of turn, and then it deals damage equal to its power to target creature and opponent controls. Yeah. It's as violent as the effect it says. We will not yield until the Eumidians relinquish our Cavaron tomorrow. Official Cav diplomatic statement. You do realize that punch to face works just as well as a message, you know? We're just going to move right along to Drix Fatemaker, a 4-mana 3/2. When it enters, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Then each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has Trample. Or you can just cast it for 2 mana and give that buff for a temporary. You give that buff temporarily and then it just goes away. Because literally the Drix is in the portal right here. And I need to read up on the lore on what the Drix are, because apparently they are the people who are responsible for keeping the Eldrazi and the Fomori back. And the ones that do slip through the cracks are, well, the Kozileks and the Ulamogs and the Emrakuls of this universe. So there is that. So the Drix are apparently always on the front lines, keeping the rest of the universe safe from these extraterrestrial threats. I may be wrong, though, because that's the impression I'm getting. So I'm definitely going to read up on the lore and correct myself on that regard. So we're just going to move right along. This card, by the way, probably will not see too much competitive play. Next, we have Fungal Colossus, a 7-mana 5/5, where it will cost X less to cast, where X is the number of differently named lands you control. A 1-mana 5/5 that does absolutely nothing is bad. Moving right along to Galactic Wayfarer, a 3-mana 3/3. When it enters, you create a lander token. So stuff like this, creatures that have mana cost similar, that so stuff like this, creatures that have mana cost and equal attack and toughness, they usually see experimentation, especially when they do something on entry. And this is No Man's Sky. The art is just No Man's Sky. This is literally just a level in No Man's Sky, and you cannot convince me otherwise. But for the card itself, probably will not see too much play, but we'll see experimentation here and there. Moving right along to Gene Pollinator, a 1-mana 1/2. You tap an untapped permanent you control, you add 1 mana of any color. Will definitely see play in standard, because mana production, or mana cheating, as a Hearthstone player would say, is always good. So moving right along to Germinating Worm, a 5-mana 5/5. When it enters, you gain 2 life, or you just warp it in. 2 mana per turn, you just gain 2 life. Keep gaining life. Keep gaining life. Sadly, it has to compete against stuff like Weather the Storm, which is still a cracked ass card to this day, and it has yet to be dethroned, unfortunately. So definitely we'll see experimentation here and there, because it is a 5/5, so it may eventually get there, but it has to compete against a lot of other cards. So definitely a no from me. Moving right along to Ice Cave Crasher, a 4-mana 4/4 with Trample, and has Landfall, where it gets just slightly bigger every time. Tifa exists, and unfortunately, so this guy will not see play anywhere else. Next, we have Intrepid Tenderfoot, a 2-mana 2/2, and for a mana sink, you make this guy slightly bigger. No, just no. We're gonna move right along to Melt Strider's Gear, a 1-mana artifact equipment, and then you attach it to a target creature control, and that creature will get +2/+1 and reach. So probably no, but it may be what you need in order to either get a good blocker or to push for the damage that you need to win the game. So definitely keep an eye for this one, but more for draft and or sealed. Up next, we have Sammy's Curiosity, a one-mana sorcery. You gain 2 life and you create a lander token. Tanuk's Gut warned of danger, but Sammy forged ahead without heed. Oh dear God, that's usually how you end up with villains. So we're just gonna move right along to Shattered Wings. There's a loading ready run meme that Broken Wings by Mr. Mister gets sung every time an effect like this gets shown off. So I'm gonna leave that joke to them. So we're just gonna move right along to Sky Stinger, a 3-mana 3/3 with reach. Why does this guy have reach? Who the fuck knows? Whenever this creature blocks a creature with flying, this creature gets +5. It becomes an 8/3. Excuse me, good sir. What the fuck? Oh my god. So this creature not only wins the this has reach award, it also has the award of what the fuck it does what? Oh my god. Definitely a surprise in draft and sealed, but in Pauper, probably no. We're gonna move right along to Thawbringer, a 3-mana 4/2. Whenever it enters or dies, you surveil once. So just floop this in and out of the graveyard and filter through your deck that way. Commander players are gonna be salivating all over this guy, and it's going to be insane. Moving right along to the goodest boy of them all, the Crumb Companion. Whenever this creature becomes tapped, you gain 1 life, and then for 2 and a tap, you put target card from a graveyard to on the bottom of its owner's library. This is a very good boy, and I will not have any other words for this really good boy, and I will kill anybody and myself if anybody insults this really good boy, because the morale of the station will greatly improve when Rover took up residence, and I will not have it any other way. We finally have a Corgi in Magic the Gathering. Moving right along to Nutrient Block. Another one of these artifacts that will be seeing play in Affinity moving forward. I will not say anymore because fuck Affinity. Moving on. Oh, we do have spaceships in lower rarities. Just 2, huh? Pinnacle Killship, a 7-mana. Okay, so Tron will cast this on turn 3. Deal 10 damage up to 1 target creature. Well, at least it's only creature. Good God, if this went to your face, good God. So there is that. So Tron will cast this very easily, so it's a removal spell for Tron. So they may experiment with this, but probably will not see play anywhere else. We're gonna move right along to Thaumaton Torpedo, a 1-mana artifact, and then for 6, oh god, it's one of those cheap artifacts to cast, but then has a mana stick that will destroy a thing, and then at least this guy reduces the cost if you attack with a spacecraft. But how likely is that in a format like Pauper? Probably will happen, especially when you're a control deck, but ultimately, nah, definitely no. Then the other spaceship is the Wormwall Sweeper, and when enters Surveil 2, ooh, that's pretty fascinating. And then it becomes a flying 2/2 when you station, if it has 4 charge counters on it. So probably no. I'm more interested in the Pinnacle Killship though. Sad that doesn't have any flavor text, because I would imagine that the flavor text would involve something like I don't know, boom or something, but otherwise, yeah, definitely more on the Pinnacle Killship here. So we're just gonna move right along to the last land here, Command Bridge. Enters tapped, and then you sacrifice it unless you tap an untapped permanent you control. So it's just permanent now, not just lands. Definitely going to synergize well with a lot of the cards in this common setting that requires them to be tapped, and then they do another thing when they're tapped. So definitely an improvement on the stuff like this, because usually for effects like this you would tap a land, or you would pay a mana in order for it to come in untapped, or at least enter safely, quote unquote. But otherwise, yeah, definitely we'll see a lot. I definitely see the seeing moderate play, so because it's nearly unconditional, well, nearly, quote unquote, but it's mana fixing. It's really good mana fixing at that, especially for multicolor decks. So definitely keep an eye out for Command Bridge moving forward. And of course, the beautiful basics that we have. And it's just gorgeous. If there's one thing that's highly underrated in Magic the Gathering, it's the art for the basic lands. People tend to gloss over basic lands a lot, but the few that do notice, and yes, I am one of those few, when it gets noticed, they're just blown away at how good some land art is, and it's insane that people tend to just again gloss over a lot of these things, and that is it. And oh boy, in Pauper, I definitely don't see a lot of changes, especially with the format being what it is at the moment. So there are definitely a few power cards here and there, like the Ilvor Gale Blade. I said, why did I say Gay Blade? Or I could have said Beyblade instead, but there we go. Cryogen Relic will definitely see play. This Ilvoy Operative will see experimentation here and there. And yeah, those are probably it. And a few other things like Red Tiger Mechan here, or in the green side of things, Biosynthetic Burst will see heavy play, likely see heavy experimentation at least in Standard, because Reach, Trampoline, Indestructible is going to be very, very insane for the Tifa landfall decks. So there is that. Otherwise, yeah, this set is as pushed as people say it is, and I cannot wait for this set to shake up the formats that at least some of them that they desperately need it. I'm going to be checking out the high rarity stuff in post, and I'll just do it in my own time. But from what I've been told, the Commander set has a lot, and I mean a lot, of really good cards for my specific strategy. So I'll definitely be looking over them from there. So otherwise, yeah, we're gonna wrap it up here. And if you guys like what you saw, hit like, comment, subscribe, and share this among your friends. And until next time, toodles.